RBI being an independent body, why they have issued 200 rupees notes, they are 2,000 rupees notes, they are already issuing 500 rupees notes, instead of issuing new 1,000 rupees notes, why they are issuing 2,000 rupee notes? Is there a motive behind?
I'll answer questions together.
Good evening, Professor. With weaker position and stronger revision, is there a chaos theory in play?
Is there a chaos?
Chaos theory in play? Like there is a sinister reason to believe in that they have introduced 2000 notes. They have shifted the focus from black money, counterfeiting to cashless economy. They have kept the secret, and all the features of chaos theory are available in this particular theory. Right. So that is what I was saying, thinking that is there a chaos theory underplay?
I'm sorry. I'd like to flag a question which is actually raised by a previous gentleman. It is a misconception which is generated by Modi that 85% of the currency are in 500 and 1000, which is a terrible thing. And therefore he has taken this. And if that is so, why the hell he has introduced 2000 rupees? Somebody has already asked. But question is, it is not that 85% are filled by 500,000 is a natural outcome of inflation. And it has to happen. And this has been taken as some kind of a terrible thing that actually has happened, and that's why this has to be taken. I think you should clarify this.
My question is regarding the currency management system. How does it differ from duplicate era? And what are all the social conditions and economic conditions in those times, and what is the present condition?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Good evening, sir. This is Raju, I'm a DIT person. Actually, I support demonetization. One thing I would like to ask you. At least tell me 2-3 benefits because of demonetization. The second thing is, there is a, rumors in the outside, 40 lakhs crores of counterfeit currency, fake currency is there in the outside the existing India at the moment. So will you agree with this? And what about the fake currency every day printing from Pakistan and coming to India? So what about that? And we are not addressing few of the real issues. And please kindly answer. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. I will use this opportunity disingenuously to sort of also deal with some of the questions that were asked to Professor Patnaik, because I would like to say a little bit about that. The question was asked about whether it was 14 lakh crore or 15 lakh crore. The basic confusion arises from the following, that the figure of 14.3 lakh crore composing of 500 and 1000 rupee notes is actually coming from the last year's Reserve Bank of India's annual report of 2015-16, which is actually the amount of 500 and 1000 rupee notes in circulation as on 31st of March 2016. Now, the argument of independent analysts like SBI's ICO-RAT and so on has been that between March 2016 and November, more number of notes were printed. Something like 1.1 lakh crore currency in 500,000 was printed, and that has additionally come into circulation, and that comes to around 15.4 lakh crore. That's the updated figure that we have as on November 8th. Today evening, Shaktikanta Das in a press conference was asked, how much is it, 14 or 15? Can you please tell us? Because the only confirmed official figure that we have is 14.3, which comes from RBI's annual report. So he was asked to say which is correct. There's somebody saying it is 15. I would not like to say give you a number at this point of time. That is his answer. What kind of economic secretary is this? Does this mean that the guy did not know? The guy did not know how many notes are there. No wonder he messed it up. In the sense that when you don't know, when you can't tell the public something that you give in your annual reports every day, if you can't tell your own public whether it was 14 lakh crore or 15 lakh crore in circulation on that day, what economy are you running? Vacate the seat. That's the immediate advice that we should provide to this gentleman. It's a fact that he has presided over a very important phase of economic mismanagement in India. The Prime Minister, the buck stops of course with the Prime Minister, the Economic Secretary, the Reserve Bank of India Governor. These are people who should say sorry to the people of India and leave their seat. They are proven to be incapable of managing the economy with any kind of respectability, credibility, or legitimacy. That's the first point that I wanted to make. Second, a lot of people, if you just ask around people on the streets, you will actually see hundreds of theories going around as to what this demonetization would do. The gentleman here asked me for some benefits of it. Okay, let me hide really hard and extract 2-3 benefits. 4. Okay, 4. Now, the first point people say is that this will actually expand the fiscal space of the government. That the government will have more money to spend for the people. After the announcement of the IDS 2 scheme, the government has been saying that the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana will actually net in a large amount of money that is actually confiscated as part of this. All the proceeds from this will actually go into that. 50 to 75% penalty has been instituted on undisclosed money, declared/undeclared. Now, this is going to be spent for the people of India. That's the first argument that is making. I try to see this as a benefit, but however I try to see this, I cannot see this as a benefit for the following reason. For that, some money should not return. Right? A part of this 15.4 should not return to the government. Right? So that the government can use it for the public, for the spending on the poor. Now Garib Kalyan Yojana needs some money. That money can come in the following way. Some of this 15.4 lakh crore does not come back. The RBI, that is a liability that is extinguished by the RBI. RBI is owned by the government. The RBI can pay this amount as a dividend to the government, and the government can use it for the Garib Kalyan Yojana for education, toilet, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. This is what the Garib Kalyan Yojana's official notification actually says. Now, this is not possible, A, because Urjit Patel himself has said that even if some 3 lakh crore does not come back to the banking system, that liability does not get extinguished. There is no scope for the RBI to pay even 1 paisa dividend on this front to the government. That is because 10 years later, I am actually storing 2 notes of 500 in my wallet. I can show it to you. And I am going to take this to the Reserve Bank of India 10 years later, and I am going to say you have to accept this. Now, the reason why Urjit Patel is saying that the liability will never be extinguished is because he is not sure of the legal position regarding this. Even if because it says very clearly that the government owes this money to me as part of the legal tender. The government simply cannot say March 31st to December 31st and say after that we will not accept. That simply does not hold legally. Because of this ambiguity, Urjit Patel was emphatical in his reply that none of this gets extinguished. That means zero money will come to the government as part of some money not coming back to the banking system. Now, let us assume that some people, that's one. Number 2 is how much money will come back. Estimates show that even if you give enormous amount of space to the government, total amount that has been confiscated in these new notes and all is less than rupees 2,000 crore as of now. A tax on that will come to be less than 1,000 crore. The 1,000 crore is nothing for a Garib Kalyan Yojana. Now, the point here is that even if you consider a potential proceeds from the Ideas 2 scheme, even then that amount comes out to be less than rupees 1,000 crore. You have to set against that the costs of this scheme. Something like 20,000 crore is going to be spent simply on printing the new notes. That's number one. Number two, you don't know how much compensation the government will pay to the toll operator, to the different public service operators, where all this was made free after November 8. Now, whether any compensation has to be paid to them or not is not clear. All these costs, this does not include, for example, people losing employment because of standing in the queue. A person standing in a queue in a day means loss of that day's work, loss of that day's wage. As a result, his total income will come down, and we simply do not know how much of this quantum will be, and it is impossible to quantify this and add to the loss accounts of it. So, the losses to the government are going to be enormous, and the gains are going to be minuscule. It's certainly going to be true that there's going to be a net loss-making enterprise that the demonetization effort. Government is actually going to spend away a few thousands of crores into the economy, and it would have, in that process, allowed much of the black money to become white, much of the counterfeit money to become legitimate currency, because banks now don't check for whether notes are counterfeit or not, as they should. I'm not saying none of them do, but I saw a Statesman's report 2 days back which actually said that banks have done away with this habit of checking notes every time somebody brings money. So that's it. The second benefit that I would like to imagine for you is that interest rates in the economy will come down. That's another point that has often been made. How will the interest rates come down? Let us see, for example. Now, interest rates in the economy will come down on the following, if the following comes true, that the public has gone and deposited 15.4 lakh crore into the banking system in the form of old notes. Till now, the government has given back 5 lakh crore in the form of new notes. Some 10 lakh crore remain to be given. If all this 10 lakh crore is demanded back by the public over the period of next 6 months or so, right, then the banks have no surplus left in order to reduce the interest rates. The argument that interest rates will come down in the banking system is based on the assumption that the bank will be flush with liquidity after demonetization. Now, that banks being flush with liquidity can be true only if public do not go back and demand all the currency they have put into the banking system, which is highly unlikely. Now, even if they don't in the short term, the banks simply cannot give away this money as loans, because anytime the public can come back and ask for this money, at that point they will have to cut into their existing stock to meet that kind of demand for currency when people come back and ask for their deposits. So no sensible bank will actually reduce the interest rates, certainly in the short term. You see a lot of talk of it going around, but there is highly unlikely that a significant reduction of interest rates is going to take place in the economy. That's the second benefit that I would like to imagine for you. The third benefit that you said, counterfeit currency. Maybe you came late, but I gave some figures when I spoke. When I said that 0.0002% is up. Now you said there is no legitimacy to these figures. There is actually money that is lying in different places and all that. That is, if there is money that is currently lying in Pakistan and Nepal or Bangladesh and so on, demonetization is not necessary to ensure that they never enter the banking Indian economy. You can still give 3 months to demonetize, and that money will stay there. See, the whole point of giving 3 hours before demonetization begins is itself, that it defies basic economic sense. What would have happened? What would have happened if the government had said you have time till January 31st or December 31st to use the old currency? Okay, and we are going to phase it out over the next 4 months or 3 months. Life would have been so easy. All this this confusion that you see around you, all this pain, 63 to 65 deaths have taken place standing in the queue. And I mean, there are photographs that you will see in some newspapers. You will really feel like crying. Some old men on the 1st of December. I saw some pictures from Kerala of pensioners, 70 years old, 80 years old, standing in the queue for 4 hours in that hot sun to collect their 2,000 rupee pension. And what sense does it make? There's absolutely no sense. And the Treasury, Kerala Treasury, asked for more currency in order to give pensions, and the Arun Jaitley said, no, that's not going to be possible. Now, this kind of I'm trying to imagine the counterfeit point of view. So the point is, even if demonetization, even if counterfeit currency was indeed your target, there was nothing that could have been adversely affecting your objective if you had attempted to demonetize over the next 3 months or 4 months. There's nothing that's going to happen there. So counterfeit currency also, I don't see there is any benefit coming out of demonetization. So I'm trying to imagine for you. I think I should stop and move to other questions. Right? So now, won't print notes. That is another point we just made to Professor Patnaik. How can you not? I see that as an implausible possibility. If there is a liability to a bank, to the banking system, that note has to be printed. There is no way, I'm telling you, there is no way that the Reserve Bank of India cannot print 15.4 lakh crores worth currency. It has to print. It will not distribute it, but it has to print. And you can hide it somewhere. You can keep it in some safe, but you have to print it. You cannot simply not print. When it's not printed, there is no legal tender. Mukul Rohatgi cannot say that we will not print 2 lakh crore. It's impossible. If 2 lakh crore is not printed, it's not in the money supply. How can something which is not printed be in circulation? That's impossible. He's a fool if he said that. It has to be printed. It need not be distributed, I agree. But it has to be printed. Narendra Modi's November 8th speech actually said that rupees, now we come to rupees 2,000 rupee notes. Rupees 2,000 rupee notes will be printed, however, they will be limited in circulation. He said that in his November 8th speech. Now, I take that seriously because it's quite possible that the chartered accountant has revealed yesterday that the 2,000 rupee notes will actually be demonetized soon. There's another coming very soon. Now, all these people who are, now, what a stupid announcement that was. Now, everyone, what will that do? That announcement, that 2,000 rupee notes will be demonetized in the next 5 years, will ensure that the demand for rupees 100 notes is going to increase 5-fold. Right? And if everybody wants actually 100 rupee notes, look at the amount of time that it will take to print them. It will take 1.5 years to print that many 100 rupee notes. When you put out an announcement, basically I think he was trying to show off that he has enormous amount of clout with the government. And actually he was actually seen chiding other journalists in Twitter, saying that no, I didn't quite say that. Why did you? He said it was my individual opinion and not the government's opinion. And we all know where this individual stands in the scheme of this government. So that's well known. It just came out of his mouth. So the reason why the government thought of introducing 2,000 rupee notes, possibly, let's assume there was some sense within the government. They thought that they are withdrawing 1,000 and 500 rupee notes, and it would be easier to replace them with 2,000 rupee notes. It can be easily printed, quickly printed, and given out to the people. Now, some basic common sense did not exist there because it was very clear, as we know now, that nobody wants to accept a 2,000 rupee note. I mean, you cannot at the same time say poor do not transact in more than 500 rupee notes and then print all your notes in 2,000. Right? It's a contradictory point. So the agriculture minister R.Ramakumar is supposed to have said that 75% of the people in India transact in less than 500 rupee notes, so demonetization will not affect them. And he has made a great discovery like that. So then where do you print 2,000? You printed then suddenly after 10 days the realization came, oh no, this is not working. So now let us start printing 500. So one day morning, the newspapers reported the RBI has started printing 500 rupee notes. After a week or so, I got it in Mumbai one day and I went to Trivandrum with that and I showed people in Trivandrum, I got a 500. They had not seen 500 because it had never reached them. It was available in Mumbai but not in Kerala. So the only reason why I think they introduced 2000 was because they thought that it would get replenished faster, but they didn't quite think of the change problem, so they messed it up and they went back to 500. Now they are saying we will demonetize 2000. Now you don't know where that is going to end up, but that's where they are. Now chaos theory. I am not an expert in chaos theory, but but there is chaos, I must say. Whether it is chaos theory, I don't know. But there is certainly chaos around us. Whether there is a method in the madness or madness in the method, I am not very sure about this. Now, let us come to Tughlaq. Sir, I am not a historian to compare Tughlaq's time, but Tughlaqian, we used to say Tughlaqian, but he is not withdrawing it, he is not rolling back in any form. So, he's going to run the pain and misery, run the full circle. To call it Tughlaqian would be wrong. It doesn't fit the case in this particular situation. The last point that I would like to take up. Oh, sorry. The point that I probably said half and sort of didn't complete was the question of interest rates. Now, there's another additional point about interest rates that is important here, which is that look, if the 15.4 lakh crore is lying with the banks, and let's assume that a part of it is not taken back by the public and remains as additional liquidity with the banks, which might help them to reduce interest rate, the credit demand has to grow. The demand for credit has to grow so that people are coming to the bank asking for more loans to establish more factories, new enterprises and so on, so that the RBI banks give them this additional money which they got from the public. If credit demand does not rise, which is very unlikely given the economic conditions that we are in, if credit demand does not rise, banks they don't sit on this money because they have to pay a deposit to the depositor, right? And they have to reclaim that cost by giving it to a borrower at slightly higher rates of interest. Now, if the borrower is not forthcoming because there is no credit demand, banks will park that money with the Reserve Bank of India. That's what they do. Now, if the banks park that money with the Reserve Bank of India, the Reserve Bank of India will sell them some bonds, right? And these bonds carry an interest rate of 6%, which is to be paid by the central government to the Reserve Bank, which will pay it to the banks, right? In other words, if whatever money is coming back to the banking system, not going back to the public, and is parked by the banks in the Reserve Bank in the form of government bonds, a 6% interest rate will have to be additionally incurred by the government of India to ensure that the money is parked in the RBI by the banks. That's an additional cost of something like 6,000 crore to the government. That's going to be an additional cost that the government will have to incur in order to keep the money that the banks have got, but the public is not taking as loans. So all this is however much you try to imagine benefits coming from the scheme, something or the other comes up and demolishes the whole claim. So whichever way you look at, that's why economists of all ideological persuasions, they have tried to look at the benefits from all nooks and corners. This, and they just can't see a gain coming out of it. The last point, a possible gain that I'll stop soon, but is that this whole cashless economy. Now, this is whole point that Professor Patnaik made this point that the cash is actually costless and it might be actually better to sometimes better to remain with cash. I agree. The point here is that if you look at cash to GDP ratio, currency to GDP ratio across countries, how much of your GDP is cash in circulation? currency in circulation. If you see, India has something like 12%. 12% of India's currency to GDP ratio is something like 12.04%. Japan, 20%. Switzerland, where all people take our black money to, 10%. Right? Now, if you look at countries like Japan has more cash in circulation than a country like India. People have these stories about people going with huge bags of cash to buy a refrigerator or a TV in a Japanese retail store. It's part of the culture of a few of countries. The presence or absence of cash is not necessarily correlated with either efficiency or lack of corruption or something else in an economy. That relationship is extremely weak, as you can see from experiences across the world. So to argue, no, it's true. That doesn't mean that India doesn't. I mean, if you look at certain other indicators, for example, how much of currency in circulation as a share of your demand deposits and so on, India comes to around 50%. It's slightly higher. Now the point is, whether you want to become cashless or not, I should decide. Right? The whole point of giving me a note like this is proof of the fact that I can transact this note when I want, need not transact this note when I don't want. That's the legal contract between me and my government. It's a sovereign contract. Right? Now, I will decide. That's why Rohatgi's argument is wrong. You simply cannot not print. You have to print. Right? Now, the other is even if the government says cashless, if I go to the bank and say I want money, they have to give me the money. They cannot tell me go cashless. That's not an argument. I can go to court. If I want my note, I want my note. That's my legal right. The bank or the government cannot say, use your checkbook. Right? Now, India does not have any law at this point of time which prohibits me from holding any amount of cash in hand. There's no law in India. I can keep 3 crores in my hand, if that is legal, of course. I can keep 3 crores in hand. Certain countries don't allow it, but in India you can keep it. I can travel with it. Just that when the police catches me, I have to just say that where this is coming from, that's all. Now, the whole point about this is, whether you are a cash economy or not, that has nothing to do with your efficiency or other features. Second is, if you move cash into a cashless economy, you need enormous amount of infrastructure to back it up. Digital infrastructure to back it up. If you look at India, only about 2% of Indian population pays income tax. Only about 3 or 4% of India's population use a credit card. Right? If you look at the total number of people who pay any bill through the internet, right? With internet services being provided by different public services, it comes to around 0.5 to 1%, not more than that. If you look at total number of people in India who do not have access to a bank branch, simple brick and mortar bank branch, it comes to 62 crore. Something like out of 120 crore. That's the number of people who don't even have access to a brick and mortar bank branch. You're telling the proportion of women who are illiterate in this country is 51%. Right? You're going to tell them install an app and do all your operations through your mobile phone. They don't even have money to buy a smartphone. Right? Now, that's another problem. Of the total mobile phones in India, roughly around 8 to 10% only are smartphones. The rest are all those old Nokia type. You have to, if you want to press C, you have to press thrice. No, I've forgotten that art. But that's the kind of phones that a large number of people use. So you are trying to. As if the darkness was not enough. So the whole arguments related to cashlessness. We have absolutely poor infrastructure related to digital transactions. Right? Now, how are we going to move into a whole cashless economy business? Now, even if you are able to push a large number of people into it, do you really see it moving more than really 10% or so? In other words, what you're trying to do here is, you are forgetting the fact that your banking sector is actually a small component of your economy as a whole, and you are trying to change the structure of an economy by tinkering with banking. Right? And the economy is rigid in its structure. It's looking and staring at you, which is the cues are evidence for that. The economy is staring at you dispassionately and saying, "Boss, what are you doing? I'm not going to change." Right? No, this is the situation that you're facing. The other point I wanted to mention about cashless economy is, I mentioned this point towards the end of my presentation. This whole reliance that this will have on the infrastructure or the architecture created by Aadhaar, which was rather illegally passed in the parliament as a money bill and so on, and which is now escalating into a larger program called India Stack, which has an e-KYC, digital signature, digital locker, new applications being built on this Aadhaar number. And you are basically staring at a surveillance economy. There are no laws to protect the citizen from any kind of misuse of the information, enormous amount of information that is going to be accumulated by the cashless economy. Now, cashless economy creates enormous information. A person can be trailed from even the small expenditures that they make. Even the purchase of a soap, the purchase of a toothpaste, a particular kind of suit. There's a famous story in the United States where this kind of surveillance created a very peculiar result. That is that the credit card company was surveilling upon the purchasing records of a particular woman, and she was actually purchasing a few goods which usually women purchase during the time of their pregnancy. Right? Now, a few weeks later, before the delivery itself, the woman gets a post in a house which actually tells her the enormous benefits of using a particular brand of diaper, right, for her child. She was wondering why this was sent to me. Only very few people know that I am going to deliver a child. It turned out that information actually came from her credit card records, because her supermarket outlet was recording these bits and pieces of purchases that she was making. Right? So this is the kind of these are the implications of this kind of transformation in the world that we live in are extraordinary, and we don't simply know into what kind of minefield we are walking into when we talk of this cashless economy so disarmingly. So as if this is something that is so harmless. People have not thought about. I make that point again. Do we have a cybersecurity law which will encompass these dealings? Do we have a privacy law? Do we have any kind of regulatory mechanism which deals with this kind of transactions? No. But we are walking into it. A few quick questions that came on paper. Introduction of higher denominator notes of 2000. I've already answered that question. Is India moving towards economy like Zimbabwe? I don't know, but the leaders have a lot of similarity. What would be the alternate solution to stop corruption other than demonetization? Oh, no, I just mentioned a large number of points that the tax department itself has enlisted as to how to attack the money that is generated and possessed without paying tax. And the tax department officials clearly know what they should do. And if those steps are followed in the most meaningful way, I think a solution to black money can be found in some ways. Corruption is, of course, a larger question. We need to work on electoral financing. We need to put in place institutional systems that do not incentivize corruption and so on. That's a larger administrative reform question that we are dealing with, about which we would need quite another session to discuss. What would be the mitigation measures to overcome this? I don't know. I really don't know how we can mitigate it further. I mean, if somebody messes it up so extraordinarily and we are asked to sort of suggest mitigation measures, I really don't know what to do. Earlier you could say, allow people to use 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. Right? That was one solution that the left parties, for example, put forward that solution a week after the crisis began. Allow people to use 500 and 1,000 rupee note. Now even that is not possible. 12.44 lakh crore out of 15 is already in the banks. The state has already confiscated all these 500 and 1,000 rupee notes and is refusing to give them back legal currency. Now, what mitigating effect? Now, you can't even think of a mitigating measure in this kind of a bizarre circumstance. If demonetization was a successful move, what are the statistics which are going to impact, like social reforms, private? No. Well, there are indicators that we need to look at, which is the agricultural production figures will come out. More detailed information on rabi sowing will come out. Next quarter's GDP numbers will come out. There are clear indicators that we can look forward to in order to look at different impacts of demonetization. At this point, that kind of data has not been generated. We need to wait for that to come. Is it possible to run a cashless economy when you have 25% illiteracy, 30% poverty, poor cyber security, 30% of population out of the banking sector? I just elaborated on that matter. I will not go to it again. According to the CMI report, the cost of demonetization is 1.28 trillion rupees. Comment. Yes, I think that's their estimate. They have arrived at A by looking at the cost of printing the new currency. B, the amount of wages people have lost because of standing in the queues. 3, the amount of business that the banks could have done. Remember, banks have stopped every other business. The banks are not giving loans, banks are not doing other things, banks are simply changing old to new notes, morning to evening, nothing else. So what is the cost to the banks when they are not doing other work, because they are spending all the time to do this work? CMI has calculated a cost to the banking system because it has added all that and it has created this number of 1.28 lakh crore. We may disagree with it, but that's a method that they have followed. It looks like an interesting number to look at. What do you have to say about the 50-50 scheme? 50% penalty, I've already mentioned that regarding the IDS2 scheme. What will be the impact in tourism industry? I must say that I also happen to be a member of the Kerala State Planning Board, and the Planning Board of Kerala under Prof. R.Ramakumar, we have appointed a committee to look into this impact of demonetization on Kerala economy, which is largely based on tourism also. Professor C.P. Chandrasekhar is heading the committee. The initial findings of that committee indicate that there is a sharp fall in tourism incomes in the state of Kerala. There are less tourists coming into hotels, very little activity happening in tourist centers. Tourists are really stuck in different places because they don't have cash. Many of them have been told you can have only 5,000 rupees a week. That's a kind of, they all are low budget tourists who come and they all carry cash. They don't have even a credit card. So these are the tourism industry has been put into extreme difficulty, certainly as a result of this. Employment is always a challenge in India. How will demonetization impact employment? Of course, every day we read news items. Today morning itself I saw one regarding the crisis in the knitwear industry in Tirupur. And a number of laborers who have been asked to leave. You see from major pockets of migrant labor in different parts of India, these migrant laborers are actually going back to their hometowns because jobs are not forthcoming as they expected in the locality they migrated to. This is going to, so all this is going to add up to an enormous loss of employment in the economy, leading to a fall of incomes and, of course, a shrinking of the economy as a whole. Of course, accumulating enormous burdens of the people in the process. Thank you very much. These are the brief answers I have to give to questions. Thank you.